Here's a story that surprised me. When Vasco da Gama reached India in 1498, he wasn't discovering a new world. Who would have thought? In fact, he was arriving late because centuries before a European ship ever rounded the Cape of Good Hope, Indian sailors were already crossing the Indian Ocean and docking on the coast of Africa. Let's start with the routes. By the early first millennium CE, sailors from the Indian subcontinent understood something crucial: the monsoon winds. These seasonal winds made it possible to sail west towards Africa and return east months later with remarkable reliability. This wasn't guesswork, it was navigation science. By the 5th century, Indian traders, especially from Western India, were active across the Indian Ocean world. Over time, this network grew stronger, denser, and routine. By the 1400s, merchants from Gujarat were sailing regularly from ports like Cambay, today's Khambat, to the Swahili coast of East Africa. Places like Mombasa, Kilwa, and Malindi were not unknown destinations, they were commercial partners. Indian ships carried cotton, textiles, spices, beads, and ceramics. In return came ivory, gold, tortoise shells, and other African goods. This trade linked Africa, Arabia, India, and Southeast Asia into a single economic system. Here's the part that often surprises people. When Vasco da Gama reached Malindi in 1498, he did not find empty waters. He found a busy port already hosting Indian and Arab vessels. In fact, da Gama hired a local pilot, widely believed by historians to have been of Indian or Arab origin, who knew the monsoon routes well enough to guide the Portuguese fleet across the ocean to Calicut. That detail matters and many don't know about it because it shows that Da Gama wasn't inventing the route to India. He was tapping into an existing system. European chroniclers like Tome Pires later recorded how Indian merchants dominated large parts of the Indian Ocean trade in the early 15th century. Da Gama's own logs confirm encounters with Indian ships along the East African coast. Here's an important clarification. Indian sailors were not explorers in the European sense. They were traders. They weren't claiming land or planting flags. They were moving goods, people, and ideas through a network that already worked. So yes, Indian travelers and merchants reached Africa long before Vasco da Gama reached India, but not as a one-time expedition, but as a routine. That's the real difference. Da Gama's voyage mattered because it opened a direct European sea route around Africa, but the ocean he sailed into was already mapped by experience, by wind, and by memory, by Indian, Arab, Swahili sailors, and others. The Indian Ocean was global before Europe joined it. And when Europe finally arrived, it didn't enter an NPC. It entered a system that had been running for centuries. I hope you gained something from video. So until we explore again, cheers and take care.